heals, right, is that they all kind of feel good to use, which is what I love about them. And then those combined with like old heals, kind of like the med kits, right? Yeah, these players are going to be prone to sneaking off into the storm and using some of these to go ahead and gather up some extra placements. I'm sure we'll see some of that.
And my favorite addition to this season, Zeke, is definitely the kneecapper. As soon as you see that on the ground, you know that you are going to pick it up. Everything that it brings, not just the speed, but also the utility, Vivid, it is definitely a must-have.
Alexa.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead
Open
and equip
YouTube.
that thing, right? Hold it out. You're going to have increased running speed. You're going to be able to avoid fall damage, and you're also going to be able to jump higher. It's kind of like that item that separates this season from others for sure. So if there's one of these that are going to be on the ground or available to our players, they're definitely going to go ahead and pick it up. But instantly, these professional players, they get so good with these weapons like Cole does right there. He's able to kind of min-max the amount that he's actually able to get out of it by equipping it, jumping higher, getting some sneaky shots in.
Yeah, the kneecapper rules. It is probably my favorite item and piece of mobility we've seen in a while. And the fact that you can just like home run someone out into the storm or just off of a building or away from you is awesome. Now, we are moments away from starting off the competition here in Major number 2. I want to get your guys' thoughts. What are you hoping to see in the 5 games we have ahead of us?
Oh gosh, there's so much to say, especially when you have a team like Peterbot that's going to be going up against the rest of the competition. I want to see people putting up a fight. I don't know if they're going to walk away with the first win, but they might, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, listen, regardless of who ends up qualifying through victory royales or consistency, I just want one thing and one thing only: 5 good games of Fortnite.
Let's go, Vivid. That's what I like to hear. With that being said, it is that time. So everyone find your seats on the bus. Let's kick off the competition.
These group stages are going to be short and sweet. 5 games is all it takes. Victory royales, of course, to punch these teams through, Jacob. I'm ready for the action.
No, it's definitely going to heat up really quick. This first couple of games, some teams might use them as a little bit of a feeler game, but as those opportunities run out, I'm going to see the pressure get to a lot of the teams, especially if they're not in contention of that consistency leaderboard, leading only a win and in situation. Luckily, you said there's 5 games, there's 2 different chances, so there's a lot of time for teams to really make up a point deficit.
And then we, of course, know that when a team wins, they go on. So the dynamic can change round to round. If we look back to Major 1, we saw a lot of that in the group stages leading up. Jacob, which draw spot, if any, you think is going to be the hottest?
I think Crime City, Peterbot, Cold, Ritual, a lot of people predict them for that game 1 win. They're going to be out of the lobby, and that opens up that drop spot. But let's see if they can win game 1 where anybody step up to the plate, because the battle bus is ready and the game starts now.
Check. I'll open it back up for you guys. The game started.
Hey, honestly, Monster, that's kind of the trend of a lot of these lobbies, is changing up your drop spots, because I was trying to look like a drop map yesterday, trying to figure out where these teams will drop. I woke up today, a few different changes already, so I expect to see that throughout the day as the lobby adapts. Maybe 1 team goes over to Crime City, maybe 2, and as the lobby predicts, 3, 4, a lot of spots will open up, which gives a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, we didn't really highlight too much about what types of battles are going to be going on in the early game. Of course, the focus is, you know, designed around what teams are the big names to look out for, right? The dynamic as we start to set the stage. But look at this. There is inevitable competition happening everywhere. Demon's Dojo seems to be a hot one, not only in the Major 1 group stages, but the trend carries on to Major 2 here. 3 teams looking to hash it out right now, and so far, seems like Wiggs is in the lead.
Yeah, the straight 50-50. Do you see that in the feed right now?
I do.
A big battle. You thought it was going to be uncontested, but Visuals, Braids, and a Minish. I think this is a chip on their shoulder from Major 1. They talked about the server room. They talked about the guaranteed rare chest. Well, guess who has it now?
Braids, Diminished, and Visuals securing those eliminations early on here to touchdown first. And all of a sudden now they have a huge lead put up in front of them. What does this mean for the overall competition? I mean, at this point, I think they're just getting started right here. So, hey, you know, there's always mix-ups. You never really know.
Yeah, and I only saw 2 eliminations fully cleaned up, so there might be hope. I think Ritual might have been able to stay alive, so it's really going to be up to him to keep their game 1 intact. But back on over to Demon's Dojo, it's something that you pointed out. That 3rd team lands a little bit towards the north around the mountain area of Demon's Dojo, so they're not directly in that fight. But eventually, because there is not a lot of loot over there, or it takes a lot of time to gather it, they will end up moving towards the south, which I do think I see a 4th team over on that side of things.
Crazy work right here. Demon's Dojo Wonderful draw spot. Not sure if there's enough loot there for 4 teams, though. That'll really spread things thin. But hey, teams are getting eliminated pretty quickly now. The first full team wipe, you can see taking its effect inside of the count there for overall squads. Here's the thing, though. Notoriously, game 1, you know, trends to be the most stacked, but something about the pacing so far seems to be keeping these teams very much on edge here as they're going straight for the action non-stop. Are we seeing a new era, a new dawn of players coming out of here for NA?
I think so. I feel like for so long, I know we talked about Peterbot, but you have Kanata, you have Clicks, you have both. You have so many hyper-aggressive players that get their points and their surge through eliminations. I think that's eventually going to catch on. Even a contested drop like Mass Meadows, they started at 2 different sides of the POI. Eventually, because there is a vault to break into, they will start to converge in that area. But you see a whole nother team already moving in. It might be the team from Hopeful Heights. That might be G-Money's team trying to third party.
I don't know.
Yeah, we saw Bryce there really looking to take an angle, possibly third party this fight going on right now for Plaz, Venix, and CR from the Wick. Seems like they've now evened the score there. Jumping on over to Ritual, I'd assume he'd have to be farming for gold or something here, right? Possibly looking to situate himself for Crime City to get his team back in the game, but this is no easy task. As if Ritual didn't already have pressure, now he has to save his whole squad.
Oh, is that new perch, that new feature into the game?
There it is.
Sold here. He's gonna go ahead and get both, hopefully both of his teammates back, because he did get that vault all to himself. You're talking about how much gold it actually is, but that's already Aviv, that's Chimp, that's Skittles, that's the ones you're seeing just north of Crime City, probably looting up that black market. But this reboot van is a lot of noise, and that lets them know there might be some weak players they can potentially take down.
Umag gets tagged a couple times. But back into the action here. Hazards looking for a little angle. Wiggs gets the tag from the low ground here. Now looking to get back with his squad to go ahead and re-control things. Now, remember, this team already fought off, right? Fended off their drop in. This is the southern team, or I should say, sorry, the northern team rotating south here into Roars and company. Very tough ask, right? As you try to situate yourself here, then you get a team just rotating quickly, but they are doing a very good job so far playing the low ground. But wait a second now, more action starts to show up here. Noisy, Creo, and Tony. Here's a veteran trio trying to put their take on the matter.
To get 10.
Yeah, they heard all this noise going down. They were the ones I was talking about, a potential 4th team besides the 3 that landed in and around Demon's Dojo. They're able to loot up towards the outside.
That's a no one plays ring,
amount of loot, but the fight's already breaking down. Creo's already
you can't even get into a game
instantly by Wiggs, and that puts the tides in their favor. But they're trying to do what they can to even the numbers, and Tony does just that, getting an elimination of his own, bringing it down to a 2v2.
After this game,
I say that relatively loosely because there's still those teams or those scattered players on the outside. You can see them very clearly in the minimap.
Hey, look, Tony, Noisy, and Creo, this is a team that's been around the block, right? They know what's going on here. They know how to handle themselves in these types of settings. They seem to have the best loadout, the best odds at success here. We saw for a brief moment, Silence and Wiggs, I mean, between them two, barely had 10 shotgun bullets here. So this is a fight that cannot go on too much longer. Otherwise, they're just going to fizzle out. They're going to come up short, but take a look here. Wiggs managed to secure a little bit more now. And they're starting to get their footing back in the game. Another trio rotating from the south, though, down into the Demon's Dojo. What is going on here? What a hot spot for group number 1.
Yeah, you're seeing kind of how active the lobbies have actually been getting. This is just game 1 of Group 1, the first stage of FNCS after getting this far after the play-ins. And we got Jeff, Skater, and Hi-R, kind of relatively new trio to the mix, landing over towards Lone Wolf Lair, contested in this group, so it's not going to be easy. Just like we saw some of those fights on the other side of the map, this is one that if it does end up lasting a long time, both teams sticking as a trio, they're separate parts of the building, that leaves the potential for not only those third parties to come in, but to set up around the black market. So teams that land towards Lone Wolf, that's going to be their step number 2 once they're able to get that vault. If in this situation they're able to get the vault.
Lone Wolf's a great POI just in general too. That natural elevation you pick up from the Lone Wolf is huge for these types of difficult lobbies with, of course, the type of player that we're looking at, the best of the best on NA. So Things are just getting started here. Gambian and company seem to be pretty content with the low ground for now, but notice their material counts. They are desperate for a little bit more here. We'll see how far they can take this one here as other teams are now starting to look inwards. Meanwhile, the recovery for Ritual in cold here.
How am I
at the
watching
Crime
this?
City. This is arguably the
on,
best, the
Twitch.
strongest POI on the map right now. And defended
I guess it's
by
live
the
on
hands of
YouTube
Peterbot
too,
right
yeah.
now. They need these tags, right? They're very far behind.
Yeah, I can't imagine them having much surge to their names because it was both Peterbot and Cold that were in the fights that got taken down. Ritual was the one looting up Crime City away from his teammates, so likely not a lot of damage there. But I don't think that takes away too far from their actual game plan, because if you know and watch a lot of Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual as a team, they do rotate towards the west, the north, the south. They do fight deep in the zone, box to box, and that's how they
Hi,
usually
Grace.
get a
Gracie.
lot of their storm surge. It's just how easy
1,020
is it
subs.
actually going to be
Let's
no
go.
longer having that mythic Sentinel pump, so no more one-shot potential coming out of Peterbot.
Can only imagine someone's first time watching competitive Fortnite and you see someone like Peterbot swinging that fast. That gold rush effect really changing the dynamic of the game. He was already quick with the builds and all that good stuff before. I can't wait to see how it plays out as the game starts to develop here. Osid, Bryson, G-Monster put a lot of emphasis on this team as one of the rising trios on the region here. Now paired up with Bryce. I think Bryce is going to bring a lot of experience, a lot of veteranship to this squad here, and this is something that they can absolutely take advantage of right now. I'm curious though, I don't know the dynamic of who's the shot caller. Would it be Bryce as he's filling the shoes of Kanata, right? Because Kanata specifically mentioned, hey, you know, I can't worry about trying to improve myself while leading, you know, a team, right? It seems like he wants to kind of take a step back from being the leader of a squad. So I am curious.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of those kind of questions answered throughout the course of the day as we tune in to Zach, Stiff, and Sobzy. Don't get
Hi,
confused.
Grace.
That is
Gracie.
Sobzy. Just trying to get some damage just west of Flooded Frogs. And if you looked at the drop map, obviously things can change before game one, after game one. It is around this area, Flooded Frogs, a little bit towards the west, a little bit towards the south, that had the most contested fights, that had the most congestion overall. But back on over to Crime City. Somebody's trying to enter in and pick up scraps, but they run into Peterbot, Ritual, and Cold, something that you don't see very often because how active they actually are. But since they got taken down early, that put a stop to their game plan, slowed them down just a little bit. But they're really trying to take all these opportunities and take these fights while they can, especially with the zone pulling further and further away, which means there's not many opportunities for third parties, but there is one.
See how clean Cold was with it, cutting off the team there. Almost caught the double edit on Mississippi on the low ground there.
Mississippi.
Notice what Peterbot's doing as he ran through.
Oh, Mississippi
Cones
wins.
out,
No,
right?
Mississippi,
Taking
go
control.
Peterbot. Go
And just as
Peterbot.
I'm about to call the piece, he was way ahead of him. And this is what Peterbot does
Oh,
best.
Mississippi.
He is just steps and levels ahead of the
He's friends with
competition.
Trim FN and
Little mechanics
Formula.
like
He always
that
wins
really make a
Formula
difference. And look at
customs.
how quickly Jacob now he's converting.
Huh? No.
It's the first elimination. He's warming up. Peterbot's coming online. Cold's just off the chase, and he chases him directly into Peterbot again, and that's the second elimination. Almost max mats. Outside the rarity of their loot, you would almost never be able to tell they've gone down, but NPen, Oliver's OG, and Larson, that third-party team, they heard the noise. But that's the thing. Do you really want a third-party, a team like Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual, if they even know it's them?
This is very questionable. NPen, Larson, Oliver OG should know much better than to try to take their hand at this. But look at the HP count. They seem a little bit desperate for a potential siphon or something right here. Do they have a med miss? Do they have anything to work with right now?
A little bit. I'm hoping they at least came prepared, especially with how long they've actually been in the zone. But they're going to be the first to disengage. Whether they know who it is or not, I agree with that. They're probably realizing with the zone pulling further and further away, taking a senseless fight like this deep into the zone might not be the most fruitful, so they're going to make their way over to Black Market. And you're seeing just a quick replay. He sits down one player, even while having to reload. His teammates drop him into the box. Peterbot goes back to back, and it goes to shoot. Goes to show that it's not the loot that makes the player, it's the player that makes the loot.
Yeah, the difference before that is when he walked into that low ground area, he was putting cones down. He was already, you know, again, 2 steps ahead of the opponent. The moment he broke that floor, bam, he made the cone edit. Just no time to waste there. But let's jump in with Swappy, Slate, and Zemo here. So they've already lost a teammate. It seems like this is a huge setback for them right now, but you know, trying to get their footing back in the competition. Now, this is a team that has won a game in a final setting before, so don't count them out just yet. It could be one of the few to go ahead and punch their way straight to the finals here, coming out of this group stage. For Shadow, Tyler, and Curve, we also expect them to show up once again for another finals. They are one of those veteran teams, of course, showing up here. Vivid said it best, I would say. He's been rooting for, you know, the likes of Shadow, Curve, Tyler, but specifically Shadow for a long time. I have as well. We've seen him grow so much as a player, and he's only continued to trend upward. So this could be another breakout moment as he's slowly working his way up the overall standings here as a prominent player for NA.
Talk about another player from NA, Cease. I would like to see, is he one of the oldest players in terms of longevity still competing in the game? How many other players would make that list? But he's kind of pairing himself up with some new and younger talent, Preston and Joe. And they've actually been pretty well, pretty consistent watching Cease perform. They're obviously not the most aggressive team out of the gates, but they play towards their teamwork play style. They get surged, they slowly work their way up that ladder. But shots like that is a little bit of that inexperience coming out because there's a team boxed up right next to him in a surge tower. He's just simply trying to get a little bit more materials, but those materials you don't necessarily need. He takes some damage, forced to waste resources, but that's that learning experience right there in action.
Talk about teams that are looking for a little action here. Sigma, Becky, and Boone right now. Eyes on the prize here as they have the safe zone. They're looking to use that storm to their advantage right now, forcing a trio back in to rotate further and further around. That is very well executed for them. Things are going to settle here, but little plays like that allow you to claim that territory. Meanwhile, what is happening here? Jace is chasing down the likes of Champs here, and oh, the wall was just ready for the taking here. Madden V jumps on in. The full aggro play here, the commitment, if you will, from this trio can be felt on all sides, and that's a quick wipe up there. Meanwhile, Osid tries to get a little piece of the action here, but they're a little too late to the party.
Yeah, Jace, Madden, trio just really had no choice. You saw kind of the reason why they were pushing into that fight in the first place, down below the Storm Surge threshold. Not necessarily the most resources and materials, so they were able to pick that up even while taking shots from that third party of Bryce, Osid, and G-Money. And now they're going to let the dust settle a little bit, get all their loot, get their health back up, and start to formulate what that next strategy is. But luckily for them, you can kind of see here from Encrypted Stacks and Death on their screen, the zone is going to pull towards the south. So not a lot of rotation for the teams that have been realistically rotating the whole game with it pulling towards the north as far as it has.
Ready up. Oh, sorry.
Definitely a far pull for the likes of that trio, but Death, Stacks, and Encrypted, one of the teams coming down to the pump power. They're going to be earlier to the catch here. Fully max Matt. Seems like things are going very well for this trio here. We've only had a brief moment where Storm Surge was warning the lobby to get active, but again, this is off to a very fast start, right? Traditionally, you'll see much more higher player count numbers, but doesn't seem like it's been too much of a problem for the majority of the teams here. Most have been committing to finishing the battles. If you're playing a more traditional strategy like Edgy is here, we talked about OGs, right? Like Cease. Edgy is definitely one of them, and he's taking that very standard approach, right? High ground, big storm tower, right? And just fishing for tags here with this trio.
Yeah, this is almost like that very early strategy over towards brutal box cards, especially when it's uncontested. You're able to spread out so far across the mountains. There's a lot of loot up there as well, including the brutal box cards where you get your loot and your metal. So they really have not had to move far from this situation. But with most of the teams really not having to rotate, you see why they're struggling when it comes to Storm Surge. It's not a lot, only 18 below, still juggling those numbers. They have a lot of opportunity and targets down below, but they have to be careful as Edgy quickly becomes the target. Zone after zone, though, Monster. Since about Zone 3, Storm Surge has affecting a lot of the teams and really dictating some of their gameplay.
Yeah, look at this. Storm Surge now getting active. I might have spoken too soon, but look, Cease looking for the chop out from down low. This is a big power play for them. Luckily for the high ground team, they managed to get their footing, but not for long. The shots come out. Joe falls first. Cease severely damaged by another trio that sees what's going on here, and Edgy, Chance, and Scar somehow get their bearings put right back under them.
This is not good though. Storm Surge is still active, about 7 seconds. Cease needs the hill. It's only a shot. Just too little, too late though. He goes down. Preston follows. Full duo gets sent back to the lobby in game 1. And that one, that's gonna hurt because it's not until top 17 you start even gaining placement points. So if you weren't able to get eliminations or any of that placement points just yet, you're really gonna start to count those games because they're gonna go pretty quick today.
You said you were
I was gonna say
elite,
how
and then
lucky
you said
for
you're
Edgy,
gold.
Chance, and Scare that Cease's team actually needed the surge, right? That was a very desperate play by them, but so did Edgy's team. They were the trio right above that line, riding the threshold ever so closely. So look at this. When it all kicked off, they were actually below for a second there, and then the tag that changed it all for Edgy here. Edgy really putting up the numbers here, gets the final one, lets the surge do the rest, and just like that, rewarded for his efforts.
Okay.
Just a lot of experience, honestly, for them just kind of not full aggressing into the box, even though they were below surge for a couple of seconds before that fight even happened. Minish, Braids, and Visuals. Big fight off spawn. Those are the 2 eliminations they've had so far. And because of them getting those 2 eliminations, that actually opened up a lot of space in the early game where they're not going to run into the likes of Peterbot and Cold early on. So they're able to dominate a lot of that early space, getting their surge towers. But another max pool coming out for everybody that's on this side of the lobby. You even see some still fighting deep into the zone.
Yeah, I love to see Ghost Splashers come out there for the rotate, but Oliver OG, Larson, and Penn, after a very close call with Peterbot's trio at Crime City, they get to the zone. They find themselves a refresher right on the edge of the next pull, and that's going to be wonderfully positioned for them now, as they'll have the extra mats to go ahead and secure this. Meanwhile, Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual already on the move here, also riding that damage from the trio fight at their drop spot. And this is interesting, right? Magic Moss is so many trees here, really clouding up the vision, if you will, for the majority. Notice there's no one committing big material here to look up and over these trees. Instead, basing around the outskirts. So this is going to really change the dynamic for a little bit. I'm curious to see where the zone's going to pull, if someone can even attempt to go for a high ground hold. It's going to be difficult to find tags at that point, but on the other side, seems like Chimp and team already getting into the action.
229 subs.
Yeah, this is one of those teams, they land all the way towards the west, Outlaws, Oasis, sometimes even further down, depending on who else is in the lobby. Aviv, Skittles, and Chimp, 232 above the damage threshold. This is a team, if I feel like they're going to make it in to the FNCS finals through this group, I feel like it is going to be mostly through consistency, but they found a slower rotation of the zone. You see how many teams they've separated and pushed farther and further away, so they don't have to take fights like this. But Larson, Enpen, Oliver OG, another new trio to this group, making it this far, only 109 above that damage threshold. They're trying to be very, very proactive because they don't want to be one of the teams that's below the threshold, forced to rotate through these Merkin zones where they don't really have too much control over their rotations.
Early use of the Chug Jug there to go in and put Larson right back off into some decent health territory for this final rotate here. They're going to need a refresh here shortly. Surge once again now, raising damage across the lobby. Meanwhile, Edgy, Chance, and Scare got a long way to go, and they're tagging players in the distance as opposed to making the rotate here while everyone else is. And it's time to get going.
Ooh, Chance has the mythic Sentinel pump. That means he had to have got it or snatched it out of somebody's hand. I didn't really see Visuals, Braids, or a Minish go down, so that's a big grab for them to be able to get. And you can see in the opportunity, the risk they've taken up into this with 3 eliminations, how much it's bolstered their loadout. But while everybody's rotating on the low ground, there's one team emerging above everybody else's. Oh no, it had to be Enpen. Peterbot and him collide. Oliver OG is next. Throughout the game, seeing them, I had such nice thoughts thinking about them performing through consistency. Unfortunately, they ran into Big Pete himself.
Feels bad because it just comes full circle for that trio now. It's just unavoidable. in these types of games. Well, let's not forget what's on the line here. It's a ride straight to the grand finals if you get this victory royale. Taki and Vert going for the high ground here early in this round. We talked about if whether or not Magic Mosses was gonna be even worth building up this high, and as you can see, things are starting to get leveled out. Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual taking a much different approach here, saying, you know what, we're content with this low ground. We're gonna play down here, play for these refreshers here. And they have so much mats to work with right here. Big 4 eliminations, leading at the front side of zone. Jacob, I mean, it's just textbook right now.
Yeah, this is looking like a recipe for success. Even with Taki, and Vert on the high ground, this is almost even giving me a feeling of deja vu. Different trio, they had NPen on their team, but this is almost a very, very similar situation. It was a battle on high ground that eventually took them down, and they missed the finals. Braids, visuals, Aminish, they're getting sprayed, target on the other side. Even pre-edits trying to come in, but they're able to hold on to their place. Not really let those players advance into their box, but you see they're running very, very low on resources. At mid is 2 empty slots, no extra heals. The big thing for them, though, is that Storm Surge. 554 above the damage threshold, which means they have to solely focus on their rotations.
Yeah, that was the last of their heals right there. This is a very desperate end game now starting to take place. Noticing Code's team takes a little bit of damage here for jumping in onto Cowie.
Let's just see what everyone's doing here.
The finish is there. And it's big come-ups for Cold there. But all right, the wide start starting to give us the overall visual, if you will, of this game here. 7 eliminations now for Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual. Peterbot facing the damage head on right now, but they are right back like they never left. Here it is, breaking on in through the walls, getting the piece control. Peterbot looking for the wall. He gets it, of course. A minute's damaged and finished. And the follow-up is so perfect from Cold there.
Deegan, look what I found.
Beautifully in unison here on the low ground. Meanwhile, Ritual making sure their 6 is covered on the high ground.
It's the rarest skin in the game.
For the high ground team. They're starting
with
to
the
run
Galaxy backbling.
I'm not sure if they're going to have what it takes, Jacob, to ride it through to the end if they don't find a refresh soon.
You think it's a
Yeah,
depth?
somebody just has to look up. They're all on
can't
look.
play
Those are
games with
easy
depth
targets and builds to crash down, but nobody's had a chance. There might be one on the side, Sigma, Desi over there, but they're the ones that are getting targeted. Taki, and Bert, they know exactly what to do. Anybody that threatens their high ground, they're going to become the targets. As Taki gets the elimination, runs to the backside of zone, refreshes those materials, but Peterbot and Cold go down again. It's up to Ritual by himself as a solo.
Little missed edit there, though. Cost him a couple mats here, but hey, he's got control of this low ground layer. Can Ritual pull through in the end here? This is a very difficult ask here to pull a full victory solo dolo, but nonetheless, the points are starting to rack up here as he's still remaining in the game. Player on his mat here. He's going up. Looking to contest high, but hey, that's a whole trio there. Might have been a little too risky.
Just went for everything. He just went for it all, trying to move up, but he finally gets taken down.
Bro.
Final 5 teams left in the game. Some of them are stuck as duos. Some of them are stuck as solos. As Encrypted just gets dropped down to a sliver of HP. Death goes down altogether. Stax is the only one here, and he's got overtaken by high ground. Vert said, nah. You may have taken it for a moment, but this throne is ours. But he gets kneecapped to the tree outside of zone. Stax is not going down without a fight.
It's costing him everything here. Stax, the last man standing, but Vert is too. Uses the kneecap to get off to the high ground, and that's just going to keep him in the game right now. But what will it be here? No mats now. Looks to break out Vert. He's asking for it. And Taki hits the shot there out of nowhere. I thought he was gone, but from the storm, one rises. The low ground team of Chimp. Skittles is still alive here, and they're putting on the pressure for the victory in the end.
That is an 8 elimination victory royale for Skittles, Chimp, and Aviv. I thought it was consistency,
Skittles
but they
Chimp?
want to have the rest of the day off, Monster. They get to watch the rest of Group 1 go by and kind of sit and watch with popcorn. Is Peterbot going to make it out of this one? Is Visuals going to make it out of this one? Congratulations to them as they are first team to the finals.
It's what you expect. The big name teams, the teams that have been in these settings before, coming through, putting up a fight, and closing out in strong fashion. But hey, this is what happens when teams go for height and they decide to clash it out, right? The low ground vets, they just clean up the dust here, sweep it under the rug, and then when you look up, the teams are in shambles, and it makes it look so simple. Big victory royale here for the fellas here. Game 1 now concluded though, Zeke.
It did, MDF. And I gotta say, this game felt very chaotic to kind of kick off the competition. I mean, to see someone like Peterbot and kind of their trio get put in a situation where Ritual's left as a solo should tell you everything. But for this trio, as they said, they've got themselves a spot going to the finals. It's got to feel so good. And to just kind of get it out of the way, right? Game one, we're good. All right, now we just watch.
And this is a trio we had no doubt, or at least I didn't have any doubt in my mind that they were going to be making it into the Major 2 finals. Aviv, Skittles, and Chimp, they are the most veteran trio that we have here. 47 finals appearances out of the 3 of them. And honestly, it just looked like it was kind of a normal day for them, Vivid, on the low ground there, allowing everyone else to kind of destroy each other on height while they just had an easy breezy way in.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those classics, right, for Fortnite. Everybody kind of going up, fighting over the high ground, and then there's that full healthy trio on the low ground, just like, oh, you guys have done all the work for us. Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go to the finals for this major right here. But yeah, I mean, Chimp, Skittles, Aviv, so much experience under their belt. No surprise to see them go in early.
And of course, that does mean that we do have a POI opening up on that west side of the map. With it being the group stages, there is just only so much that we can predict because these trios kind of like to change things up as the games do go on. Now moving from 33 trios now to 32 trios, as of course we do have Chimp's trio already punching their ticket into the finals.
Yeah, that's got to feel really good just to get it out of the way. And now that's it for everyone else. How do we adapt, right? With only 4 games left to go, we need a victory royale, or we need to make sure we end the day in the top 5 of placements to secure our spot in the finals. For now, though, we're going to take a break. When we return, we'll break down more of what we saw out of game number 1. So stay tuned.
Hi, Sam.
If you miss, you gon' regret it. Before you crawl, no, I'm running it all. I'm built up like a pharaoh, now they praying out.
Oh, thank you for some. Alexa, home. Square dance on the floor. This is not a ball. I'm above it all. Start, I see my glow up where you supposed to go. Proceed on the low, can't lose and find the go. Leave me in the zone, I take your mind and then I smash your soul. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. I get it, they love my whole steady. They got so listen, told you this ain't hypothetical. Answer the call, prove this once and for all. Can't reach me with an arrow, summer nights I never fall. No cattle, the goat don't wear a saddle. Go riders up my body, cut them off, they yak and slap. Mississippi.
Already, I consume the petty. The vision's 2020, believe your eyes are winning. Turn up the track, going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. This a rap, got the match built like a pro. You know the legends go, harder than his audio. When the lights shine bright, that's my show. Burn up and see the glow, I'm gonna make it known. The track going deep, I'm in the zone. You know I'm about to go, harder than hard to go. When the lights shine bright, that's my show.
Mississippi is pretty much last place.
I don't know about y'all, but I was jamming to that track there. That was a good one. Welcome back to the FNCS. We got done with game number 1, but we still have 4 games left to go. Let's talk about game number 1. It was chaotic. All right, when we, let's just start with Peterbot and his trio, right? To kind of set the tone of kind of what, like, this is not what we expected, right? We kind of expected them to kind of just come out and maybe win game number 1, Kelly, and then to see them in the situation they were with the loadouts that they had, and then finally to be left Ritual by himself. Tough.
First of all, at the start of the show, I said that they might not win game 1, so don't throw my hat into the ring of thinking that this is how things are going to go. I predicted this no, not exactly, but Ritual coming out with the clutch there. Of course, we got the reboot coming out for both Cold and Peterbot. Kind of wish we got to see a little bit earlier. I'm excited to actually rewatch that game again to see what exactly happened at the start, but being able to convert a rough start into a good middle and late game is what really makes or breaks this trio here.
I mean, you would imagine that, like, you take it out and you're like, oh, well, they didn't win the game. Maybe it's because they had to go ahead and get like a double reboot up, but they actually recovered very, very well from that, right? But it's just going to be that stylistic thing for this trio where it's like, yeah, even though they're going to be in a good spot, like towards the end game right there on the low ground, when they had like 100+ builds each after they just picked up a couple of refreshes, they continue to fight, right? Like, that's just how they like to play. It's obviously going to be risky, but it's also one of those type of things that's like, hey, listen, even if we're in a good spot, we care about one thing and one thing only. That's going to be pretty much just making sure the lobby always feels their presence. They know they're going to make it to finals. Why not just keep going for more and more eliminations? And unfortunately for them, though, Edgy, Scare, and Chance on the other side of this were able to fend them off.
But still, getting 9 eliminations and having Ritual being able to survive until 7th place there is still able to get them those points. There is not any worry in my mind, or I think anyone's, that they're not going to get either a victory royale today or be able to be in our top 5. And currently they are in 3rd place through consistency, mostly due to going down in 7th place there. Of course, though, we saw Taki, Isho, and Vert having a pretty good time holding high ground from really earlier on, around 8th zone right there, and being able to kind of control it all the way till the very end, grabbing 7 eliminations as well. But of course, Death's trio currently sitting in 3rd, and then, as I said, Peterbot's trio in 4th.
Yeah, and when it comes down to the Death Trio, right, we saw Stacks putting on quite a showing towards the top of the builds over there, towards the higher ground, right? Jacob was going crazy talking about how Stacks was not going to go down without a fight. And be like, well, how did that all happen, right? The trio's all on the low ground. I'm not sure. Stacks worked his way up, though, had high ground for a little bit there himself. But unfortunately, on the receiving end of it, right, Vert not being too interested in giving it up for free either.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a back and forth there between Stacks and Vert, of fight for the solos on height, but you can only do so much as a solo player when there is a lot of other players in the lobby kind of gunning for you.
Yeah, unfortunately running out of mats as well, right? Just a difficult situation to be in. Again, that game 1 was just so unbelievably chaotic. I'm kind of curious to see how we all bounce back for game number 2, because yeah, I just expected this to go so differently.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of opportunities. We still have 4 more games here for these trios to kind of figure out how they want to play out the play-in, or not the play-ins, I'm sorry, the group stages. And honestly, this isn't too much of a surprise to see how different it is from the play-ins. We knew that the play-ins were going to be ultra aggressive, and obviously there's only really one chance for these teams to be able to make it into the global championships outside of that final little reboot we have towards the end for those 3 final teams we'll be figuring out next week. But for me, Vivid, I still think that there's plenty of opportunities for these teams to kind of change things up for games 2 through 5.
Oh yeah, 100%, right? And we're only playing 5 games today, and off of the first one right there, Oliver, OG, N-Pen, and Larson kind of keeping themselves in contention right there. 8th place, still close to the top of the leaderboard right there. Unfortunately, though, right, we kind of saw N-Pen on the receiving end of what will probably find its way into a Peterbot highlight reel, because it was absolutely insane. I feel sorry, N-Pen, but that was a little crazy. And we saw Oliver at one point was like, oh, let me back away from that one real quick. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the story for a lot of these trios, right? Just go ahead and keep yourselves in the contention, right? Top 5 on the consistency leaderboard. And of course, some of these top teams will actually steal those spots away. One thing that Zeke always likes to mention.
It's very possible. I'm hoping to see, and I love that you also kind of highlight that Peterbot is just wanting to make himself known in this lobby, right? Because I'm sure for everyone else, Kelly, they're probably thinking, why don't you guys just win game number 1? Just go ahead and go into finals. Let us play the game. Let us have fun, because they are just disrupting everyone else.
I mean, when you take into consideration we don't have any more Div 1 Cups, they're not going to be playing in groups 2 and 3, this might be the best opportunity they have to get some kind of scrims and some practice before the Major 2 finals.
Game number 2 is all but here. Listen, pretty chaotic, right? High ground had some highlights, low ground had some highlights. More of that, please. I said I wanted 5 entertaining games, 1 down.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's okay. I won't panic as I often tend to, but it's okay. Game number 2 is ready. So once again, let's jump back on over to MDF and Jacob PR for game 2.
Don't worry, Zeke, we got you. No need to panic just yet. It's game number 1 in Monster.
Nothing
that was
good.
just a little taste of what we're going to see throughout the day here today. If anybody thinks a competition like this with so much on the line is going to be easy, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a single moment in that round, at least from what we saw in the broadcast, where there was no action on the scene. From the beginning to the very end, the pace was set, and it was set pretty darn high. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to play out. And then looking back at it, Aviv, Skittles, and Chimp, the most finals appearances when it comes down to the combination of appearances in the trio. So congrats to them. Let's go watch game number 2, though, now. And picking up where we left off, Jacob, game 2, right? The pace, the stage, it's truly been set. We know that Crime City already is going to be one of those places that we want to see what's going to end up happening here. NPen and crew got a little taste of what happens when you rotate a little too closely to Peterbot and company. So I'm super curious to see how this is going to ultimately play out. But in the end, though, 1 team down, more spots open up, and this starts to give the atmosphere a little bit more room. But look at the adjustments being made here from Cold, Peterbot, and Ritual.
Why isn't Clicks playing
teaming up,
FNCS?
saying, you know what, let's stick as a trio here.
Is this
just
even
in case things
FNCS?
go south.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the thing,
so-
though. Those tricks will work, Monster. They'll work the first time, but after that, that's where it gets tougher and tougher to pull off those tricks.
Yeah,
from
but doesn't
underneath
this
your
just
sleeve
get you a
that's gonna
spot
go
in
over to the
grand
regular
finals?
drop, play things out like usual. Lone Wolf, a fight that we saw get kind of
How do you know?
very prolonged out in game number 1. It's just one of those situations when you kind of split it up
He's
like they're
guaranteed.
doing here. There's a lot of barrels. There's a good amount of shields that you can possibly access. So you're not going to just straight 50-50. So you want
Oh, I
to
see
take
this
all
guy.
the time in the world to actually get yourself ready for a fight in this situation. But the longer it takes, the harder it's going to be to come back from the situation, no matter who wins the actual fight.
Yeah, of all the drops, Lone Wolf is definitely one of my favorite to have landed at so far in the season. But for Jeff, Skater, and Higher, though, it's a matter of course, getting situated before things start to cook
Ooh, I
up.
got
We
the
already noticed that
haste
other
blade
teams
shot.
are inevitably going to be rotating here as well,
Yes,
so
indeed.
they've gotten all the information they need. Meanwhile, you know what they're going after? It's the goodies from the train, of course. Jacob, I mean, talk to me about why this is a significant pickup for Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual.
I mean, the biggest thing is the guaranteed mythic Sentinel Puff. I think might be the only weapon in the game that has that one-shot potential. Then you put it in Peterbot's hands, and you wonder why he is so dangerous in those situations. There's a ton of gold that they're able to get, and the medallion. This is going to grant that gold rush effect. Usually it goes into Peterbot's hands, so that way he can actually run wild. And this is why typically whether you're watching an open round, a divisional cup, he puts himself in those 1v3 situations to start the fight, knowing his teammates will back him up.
That unstoppable medallion, of course, the prime pickup for the team. Continuing the action here, though. Hey, seems like people didn't learn their lesson in game number 1 here at the Mass Metal. This fight kicking off very quickly once again here. A little different, though. It seems like both teams have taken a little bit more time to situate their loadouts before deciding to clash with one another.
Yeah, I feel like it's another one of those lone wolf situations, but Mass Meadows is just a little bit bigger, so in theory you can split the loot. They have the whole underground as well, but it's everything that you're able to get, the heals, the gold. It really sets yourself up to visit those black markets multiple times to really replenish a lot of the resources that you may or may not have in that situation. But it's basically whoever gets there first can kind of lock down and force the team to fight them in a box fight just like this.
There's a lot going on here. Meanwhile, Higher Skater and Asian Jeff, the lone wolf player, took a brief moment to see what's happening on the other side, and that fight is fully collapsing now. And hey, I set it up early for a reason. We knew there were going to be another team rotating in. The last game showed us that that was the case, and this time they make their way here even faster. So Jeff, Skater, and Higher here have a lot to fight for the Volt right now. And it's just not going to be given to them for free.
Nah, and you notice what they did, though. They made it much harder for anybody to try to fight them. They dropped all the way down. They boxed up. They claimed as much space as they can down below. And they started the vault. So even if they're not actively trying to take down the vault by hitting it extra, at least getting the thermite there, opening up slowly but surely, they can watch their back, but it's just a very, very limited amount of materials down below. So if the team above them knows they can just spray the covers, get them to waste the materials, that might be an entry point into a fight like this.
Yeah, notice they're scrapping this entire low ground for anything that they can get, just to go ahead and give them that little edge, trying to counteract the fact that they don't have mats. But just a quick highlight, how do we get there? Well, this is where things started to devolve for the other team. Mokata there falling pretty quickly to the hands of Asian Jeff.
Oh, Asian
Now
Jeff
it is just a fight for the Volt here, but no pressure coming from up above. It just seems like the two trios kind of countered each other out and have spooked one another before the fight actually began.
Sort of a blessing for that solo, though, because instead of them being able to chase him down, Skater, Higher, and Jeff had to go down below, get the vault. That other trio disengaged on out, so that's at least giving a chance to grab those reboot cards, get your teammates back into the game. Yes, you have a ton of work to do afterwards, but all you need is a chance at some points. As we switch it on over towards Seaport, Braids, Visual, and Diminish taking a whole different rotation this time around. They weren't able to get to 2 eliminations on Peterbot and Cold, which means at this point in the game compared to last, they are lacking some Storm Surge.
Look at this, Diminish, Visuals, Braids rotating to the Seaport City now. Little splash effect comes out as they see Salt playing the low ground here, out of position, and he tried to be quick to catch the full collapse there, but didn't seem like they got enough, and now they're in a bit of a tough situation here as they have the low ground, but fully committing the kneecapper, allowing them to get that bit of high ground there, taking full advantage of the benefits of the speed and the extra height that you get from it. And look at this, that team fully going for the high ground position now. What do you think happens here after they get this damage? Is it time to disengage, move on?
Yeah, I think for Visual, Braids, and Diminish, I think it's a moment to kind of disengage here. It may not come immediately out of the gates, but it's just too risky to continue to fight against that much of an elevation difference. You saw them trading shots. As soon as one pushed up, the other one got weak, dropped down. As G-Money, Osid, and Bryce, I saw them in the feed getting busy. They were able to get 1 elimination. We tune in just in time to see the second one picked up. And this is a prime example of what we're talking about, the different vault fights. You're not able to win it. You're not able to loot it fast enough. The third parties come in, especially Bryce, G-Money, and Osid, uncontested at Hopeful Heights. They're going to waste no time getting what they need.
Oliver in a fight right now. Seems like they've lost NPen here. It's just Oliver and Larson right now. Larson playing the side angles, trying to fend off OK and Chimps here for Champs. Champs got most of the control, but do notice, seems like the Storm is inevitably going to start forcing this team to rotate here shortly.
One thing I almost want to take note of here for a quick second, and you see Oliver and Larson in this fight, and you're wondering, how did they even get on this side of the map? But remember, Aviv, Skittles, and Chimp qualified to the finals, open up Outlaws Oasis. Oliver, OG, Larson, and NPen were the ones that tried to take that open drop spot, but they find themselves in a peculiar situation, 2v3. Zone is now covering up, so even though it is a 1-tick, it at least puts them on the clock. I see only 1 splash of HP in Larson's inventory. Not sure what Oliver's OG has, but they need to figure it out quick.
I forgot that.
Definitely
Oliver OG's not even that good.
That's going to give them that enhanced pickaxe effect.
He's washed.
Notice, and it's just going down right now. There is nothing you
Are you
can
watching
do.
this, Tegan?
They have the extra man advantage, and that
Definitely,
alone
yes.
is going to make all the difference when you have that gold splash effect. That gold rush effect is just so powerful in the right hands. And, unfortunately, the right hands is any pro player. As you can see on the other side, though, Joji, this is very reminiscent of that last major. I remember Muzz's team taking a victory from here. The Shining Span, this high ground position.
They really didn't have to rotate. I'm almost hoping we get a little bit of a replay here, but it does pull off of the bridge. The rest of the lobby doesn't necessarily have to rotate into Prom, Donnie, and Joji, but that's still going to give them an opportunity to kind of overlook a lot of area, a lot of distance that they're able to kind of see. You see all the way north towards Demon's Dojo. A lot of the teams you saw in game 1 having to rotate south this times around, and that's Tony's team, Creon and Noisy. That was one of the teams that we saw rotate north that they can possibly get Storm Surge on, and you see they might have that same idea. Donnie, Prom, both of them crouching, just trying to make sure to keep their positions hidden so they can maybe do a sneak attack if they rotate over.
Yes, it's very nicely set up, I would say. You know, the ambush is looking pretty good, and of course Joji's got that information, right? He can download it, share it with his team here from the high ground, but those teams seem to have the senses that this might not be worth rotating on the outskirts. And Creo, Tony, Noisy, a couple tags get exchanged there, but it seems like they're going to be looking to get out. Meanwhile, Armored Truck in the hands of Bryce Osid and G-Money here.
I feel like it's very, very telling of how confident they were in the early game, because they were able to get the Armored Truck, which means they're able to get some extra heals that they can use to potentially third party. So even if they don't get eliminations, which they were able to pick up to entering the fight at the very beginning of Mass Metals, but even if they didn't, they were still able to kind of accumulate a large amount of Storm Surge. Now, no matter where the zone pulls, they have that armored vehicle, they have some extra cover, so that way they can almost rotate where they want to without using any materials, as they first set their eyes on that black market, though.
This reminds me way back in the day when the vehicles during that start season were in the game. Folks would box up their cars and use them to rotate and boost out with. Now the armored van kind of giving that same feel. A lot of opportunity opening up with that. Bryce Osid and G-Monster, though, pretty content with this positioning here. A little mile in, they find Jersey and Mattis team there. Things are going to slow down. Mississippi % and Cash here.
Are you good at FN, sir?
Tunnel.
What's your favorite FN player of all time from FN?
Looking for what seems to be a pickup of their own.
When are you watching FNCS Division?
Just in my head, I'm like, please don't take the porta potty. Please don't. There's a whole team
What's up
above.
Brown?
And I'm pretty sure it's Edgy and Chance and Scares team landing over towards Brutal. Maybe they went towards the south. It could be anybody at this point with how much rotation these teams were forced to make. But it is actually Bravify, Kaji's team. It's only 2 of those 3 members. You see Hazard in the distance, a little mountain nearby, but it's just that way they can cover more ground. So they want to get as much Storm Surge as possible in these first couple of early zones, so that way they can purely focus on the rotation, getting themselves safe spots, so they don't have to fight for Storm Surge, which we both know is very, very risky.
Yeah, same thing we saw at Shining Span, right? Joji with the ultimate height, and then the teammates kind of playing the outskirts there, looking for rotators. It's definitely the right move. Talk about team split. This is much different. Cold and Peterbot seem to be inching their way up towards Curve, Tyler, and Shadow. I'm not sure how they feel about it. They're like, yeah, it's time for us to go. The zone's already moving. Team's trying to get close. We don't want that action. I would say this is definitely the right call here. But look at that map. Pay close attention. Team close on their heels. Creo, Noisy, and Tony back to the Seaport City here. Fight finally starting to evolve outwards. And they seem to have just waited around. Okay, so if it wasn't a Minish's trio, it's now Creo. So all these very much experienced teams seem to just be singling out Salt 3X and the rest of his trio, and they get finished up pretty quickly here at the Seaport City.
Yeah, Noisy them really taking that opportunity in stride. It was actually the 2 fighting. Smiley and his trio was able to take down Visuals, Braids, and a Minish. They crashed. They third party, proving to be a lot of success there as Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual find themselves at the edge of zone, box to box with Curve, Tyler, and Shadow. And it doesn't look like they're just trying to position safely and let the game pass them by. They're going to create this situation because this is typically how they get a lot of their Storm Surges. Cold and Tyler continue to trade shots back and forth. Both teams actually accumulated a good amount of surge because of this fight.
Shadow still has a couple splashes here to work with. They might need to start putting them into effect here to give them a little bit more of an advantage while they still have it. But the longer you wait, the more damage and pressure comes in, and another trio starting to add their take onto the matters here. So shots are coming in, teams are moving closer. Peterbot, Richmond, Cold. I wonder if they're sensing the danger nearby. Doesn't matter how good you are. Anything can, of course, happen here. Look at this.
Whoever disengages, I'm not sure they're going to be happy with this situation, but Smitty, Oracle, Sniper, they're just waiting for the perfect moment. They're probably waiting and watching the feed right now and waiting for at least a knock to go through and time it with the shots, and that's where they're going to try to crash. But Peterbot weak, Ritual, no shield. This would be the perfect time, especially since their opposition are just taking shots back and forth. Neither one of them from either one of these teams, and there goes the flank. Peterbot's going to be the one on the receiving end, and that is a huge loss for their trio. They weren't able to actually pick up the elimination just yet. A lot of chaos ensued. They're trying to backtrack, bunker down to their position before they finally find a way to get the elimination, which has been scooped up. They're trying to get the body out, but Curve is going to be the defender with Cypher going down. This whole fight, all three trios seem to be in shambles.
Wait, all of a sudden, Shadow's team turns onto Oracle, Smitty, and Sniper, and they end up finishing a couple of their players now, too. So this is quickly falling and crumbling. Meanwhile, a team goes back into the storm. Was that Cold and Ritual? Did they matter? Actually, might have managed to get the reboot card and dip into the storm for the pickup. It all happened so quickly. And look, in the end, Shadow, Curve, and Tyler get bailed out there in a crazy turn of events. Yep,
Sure,
even
don't.
Oracle's team deciding if they want to play Storm now.
Because I want to read chat.
Uh-oh, they went back towards Foxy to try to get the reboots. A trade, Exhale goes down, but Cold gets fully cleaned up, and that puts a lot of pressure, I believe, on Ritual yet again. Even if he's still alive, that could have been a full wipe.
Yep, I saw 71 players.
Back-to-back games.
Oh, what is this? Oh, his teammates falling now. My gosh.
It's not too bad. That's not too bad. It's not very, very dangerous in terms of storm damage. If they get the reboot, as long as they have HP, but I'm realizing his loadout as we speak, there's almost no chance he's going to be able to turn around, get the reboot cards, and get his teammates back, at least not at Foxy Floodgates. And even now, he's on the clock, 10 seconds left. The storm is now moving on strike fear for him.
Look at this, Ritual picking up Peterbot. You know, you got to give Ritual all the credit right now. And Cold there, so somehow he did get their reboot card, but take a look at this. They are 430 damage low. There's no way that's accurate, right?
No, it's accurate. They got rebooted. All their damage is gone. All their damage. Ritual's damage is going to be the only one that really counts in Zone 5. I'm not sure with Peterbot and Cold really being the front runner, so this is going to be a tall task for a team like this. I'm not going to say it's impossible because it's Peterbot, it's Cold, it's Ritual, but they're immediately going to have to start getting in engages to turn that number sideways.
You just got to think about it. If you were betting that Ritual will be picking up both Cold and Peterbot more than once in the weekend today, well, there you go. That just happened. So very rare occurrence here. Things are just playing out so differently, I think, than most would have imagined. For a Group 1 setting, right, you'd expect a team like Peterbot to just keep that momentum. You saw their Divisional Cup performances. All in all, they were basically first place for a full month run. Either way, Jacob, this is keeping us, if nothing else, very much entertained.
It's like that any given Sunday. This is exactly why we play it out. You know, everybody has their favorites, their biases towards players, towards trios, but this is exactly why I always talk about opportunities, chances, being able to take advantage. And this isn't just Storm Surge. This is active Storm Surge. Ritual is not going to go down, Monster. He is going to get fully eliminated. So that is going to be tough because now Cold has to get the active Surge. They might not even make it out of zone as
it's going to get fully eliminated.
Chance has been done and gone because they are just out of almost everything they need to survive.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, literally running out of options at this point. A medkit's gonna fall there. That could be a huge saving grace, to say the least. I'm wondering if Cole just drops Peterbot these heals and just lets that play out. We'll see. Ultimately, though, 600 below and what seems to be miles away from the save zone. The damage is just going to start ramping up. Peterbot has to fully heal off before, of course, taking the launch pad here. And this is really starting to come together.
That's more than 3 straight eliminations.
I was going to say, you think about in-game implications, storm sickness, right? Like there's just a lot of bad starting to come together right now.
This would, I was about to say, would this be like a historic moment for Peterbot Cold, or is this business as usual? I'm over here asking the chat right now, if you guys are watching, do they make it out alive? Do we see Peterbot and Cold in the end game? But you're seeing those struggles or around the entirety of the lobby. Prom, Donnie, Joji, barely 6 above the damage threshold, which at least it's above, giving them a chance to really accumulate more damage, but it's not a sweet spot to be in.
Oh, here they come from the storm, finally to the safety, and the surge just gets them before they could get a heal off. Seconds
He's died
away
3 times in
from
this match.
potentially having a chance, a glimmer of hope,
didn't.
but there's not going to be enough. Too
He
much
got
time
AR'd.
spent in the air and in the storm, unfortunately.
He's got
So
absolutely
it
fried.
is what it is, though. Can't count them out. They had a great game 1, right? 5 games here. You can only really
Oh.
afford to drop about 2 if you want to be in the kind of consistency range. However, pressure is on now to perform for Chance. QK 51 Cole, things seem to be
Unheard of a
looking
lot
pretty
of
good for
people.
them right now, comparatively. As they now have a full, not only position here in the storm, but max material to work with, picking up what was left from Cold's body.
I pay attention to it, I just don't really like.
For the most part, a good spot to be in, other than Storm Surge, but you're seeing it really kind of affect and dictate a lot of the lobby in a situation like this. 116 below is going to be Ozone, Golden, and Void. But it's a team
Void!
that I know, when it comes to consistency, know how to put themselves in the right situations. Game 1 wasn't necessarily the best example of that.
Did you hear them say void?
But with now the pressure on, really backs up against the wall when it comes to Storm Surge. They're really going to have to go.
You know, I hit
Joji,
1K
Donnie, Prom, they're
earlier.
feeling
Look
the
how
same
much
thing,
subs
but
I'm
they're in
at
a better
now.
spot, 61 above and counting, especially now that they get the down onto Muss. They lose Donnie in the mix. A sacrifice, collateral damage as it breaks down to a 2v2 outside of the zone as well. So Joji realizes that and he's immediately trying to beeline it and find some cover for him in Prom.
Just instant regret there, going blow for blow on the outside of the zone while it's moving this fast is going to cause all that damage, all that risk to really start to compound here. Not looking good right now for Joji and Prob, but hey, they have a moment now to go ahead and get situated here, but look at the zone pull. It's going all the more further for them now, so no breaks here in the wild. They're going to have to fight their way out of this position they've walked themselves into. Meanwhile, Death stacks and encrypted. Very much close to the new storm line here. Have a lot of time to work with, really digest the landscape here, and notice no one confidently flexing for any type of high ground position just yet. Seems like the lobby kind of waiting for an opportunity here.
Yeah, I think in this next couple of zones, but you're seeing a lot of the players that we're looking at missing a lot of materials, even down on Surge, but a quick turnaround. They're able to take down Polka, but still 180 below that damage threshold, and a far pull on top of that. The odds are looking like they're stacking against them as Storm Surge damage every seconds. 25 HP or shield gets taken down, and they're not even a single step closer to accumulating damage since the zone is pulling further and further away. The time is now ticking, but they're getting the shots that they need. I do believe that is going to be Ozone being the front runner. He's the first to rotate. He's the first to try to get all that damage, and so far it's working out to perfection. Void tries to pounce onto one. 19 damage is all they need, and as he turns and burns another shield down, that's Higher, who went ahead and took the challenge as he's able to get the down on the Void back.
But the storm does the rest. It's all up to Golden and Ozone now, who have found themselves kind of split apart from one another. And look, just flirting with the edge of the storm there, but
It's just flirting with the edge of storm is crazy.
For sure there to the likes, but here it is. Ozone now. The zone's going to start to double back here. A little bit of a priority position. And we are in the money for placement points, right? So top 14 now. Things are going to start to add up for them. All he has to do is just basically hold on. Meanwhile, Edgy, Scare, and Chance. Look at this spot here on the low ground. The vets that have been here time and time again playing it very well. No pressure from the likes of a Peterbot or a Cold and Ritual in this lobby. So this is looking much more calm here on the low ground at the moment.
Especially at the front side of the zone. It's Skater, Higher. They found a fire pit. They're going to use anything that they can and even stoking the flame. They want that HP quick. They know the zone is coming. And they're 163 above the damage threshold. This game after game, this is the second time. Taki, Ishao, and Vert Monster, they're the ones on the high ground. I'm just hoping they've been able to learn from their mistakes of game one and actually pull off this VR.
I absolutely love this. Watching a team just deliberately say, hey, we're going to be the squad that's going to go for high ground. Notice zone 8, all that timid positioning. No one wanted to build up. No one wanted to commit, but they say high risk, high reward, and that's what Taki and crew are looking to put together right now. On the low ground, though, NG, Scare, and Chance looking for a refresher here on the mid-ground layers. If they get the mats that they deserve, I mean, that is going to be the effect that's going to cascade them on up. Taki gets a refresh in the kind of high ground there, and look at this. It's just this low ground spot here. Edgy, Scare, and Chance are playing this masterfully right now.
They're just going ahead and tarping. Edgy, the tarper, the experience, the IGL, trying to lead him to the promised end. Noisy, Creon, Tony, they're on the side. They're not yet looking up, but they're scouting at the bare minimum, trying to see, is this an opportunity for us to go? They do have the gold splash effect. They can run as Osid. He's in a terrorizing position, getting shot from all angles, but figures out a way to reunite with Bryce, but that's only one teammate. They're stuck as a duo in a world full of trios.
Elimination after elimination, everything happening here. Tony, Noisy, and Kriya, we're thinking about high ground, but it seems like that card is pulled off the table here now as Noisy falls there, and
really
Tony's going to play the Chug Jug splash all the way, the Chug Jug in the storm, but no, doesn't want to stick around for too long. Meanwhile, Taki, Vert, and Ishu working their way down, constantly pressuring these other layers, forcing the sandwich to continue to collapse here, but what is happening? Ozone is still holding on somehow. Talk about clutching up points here for the trio.
Percent and Cash, they went for it. Percent went up, Cash went down though. They were forced to split up, but they did the damage. They separated Taki and Ishu. Vert was sent down below, but he's still managing to stay alive as well. They've accepted the challenge and they've succeeded. They have 6 eliminations, but you're right, Vert, they need a refresh, and this is the perfect moment for them to drop down while everybody on the low ground is in shambles. There's so much chaos going down below, and nobody's feeling confident.
Hey, anything can happen right here with...
Alright guys, we are going to stop spamming. Stop spamming. Stop. Are you spamming? No. Do 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 ba ba da ba do ba da. No, we have pizza. Oh, yes, that's been gone for. Yeah, that's been gone for like 3 hours.